everyone from Hyderabad. It's great to see so many of you for the live Fireside chat today, which is a special episode featuring none other than the former Prime Minister of Malta, His Excellency Dr. Joseph Muscat. And Dr. Muscat, it's an honor to have you with us today at Woxsen University.
The pleasure is all mine to be here at Woxsen.
So, just to share with all of you, Dr. Muscat has been the Prime Minister till 2020. He's been a member of the Labour Party till 2020. Besides that, he has been, the chairman of the Malta Premier League. And more than that, I think one thing which is very, I would say, noteworthy to mention is that during his leadership, the former Prime Minister has been able to support the government in legalizing same-sex marriage in Malta. So that's a big achievement. So really, commend you on this achievement for Malta. My first question to you, Dr. Muscat, as we begin this conversation, is your journey from being a young member of the Labour Party to becoming the Prime Minister. So if you could, in a nutshell, just tell us what the journey looked like, because I'm sure the journey of a politician is not easy. And this episode is being attended by some of our students, so maybe you could inspire them.
Well, I think politics is good for those who enjoy roller coaster rides in fun parks. So if you're looking for something which is very predictable, very smooth, and without a bump, I think you're in for a job as an accountant. Politics is more or less roller coaster. So one time your head is upside down, one time you're at full speed, one time you are going very slow, but there is never a dull moment. And really and truly what's interesting about politics is that it should not be seen as a career. I'm very skeptical of those who look at politics as a career. So that you start somewhere and you end somewhere as a sort of natural progression. Politics, I believe, is a phase in one's life that you do for a period and then you move on to other things. So I did it at the very beginning of my productive life. There are others who do it at the end of their productive life. I would be very wary of those who do it for all their life, to say the truth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muscat, for those opening insights. My next question is about some of your reforms and policies. I'm sure as a country's head of the state, it is not easy to implement some of the toughest decisions or the toughest reforms that as a collective society it becomes at times when you don't have a buy-in from the majority. The question to you is, can you walk us through how do you make tough decisions possible and still garner support for your initiatives?
I think the key word is transparency. You don't try to make something look what it is not. So if you're standing for an election and your program should be clear, I will do this, this and this. And then go on to explain why you are doing it. So I believe that change is not a policy in itself. So it doesn't make sense to stand for change as in without answering the question, why do you want that change? And most of the time the answer to that, if the answer is equality, if the answer is social progress, if the answer is social mobility and prosperity, then the change explains itself better. So I believe that people are naturally inclined to be against the status quo. Against the status quo when it comes to criticizing it, but afraid of changing it for fear that the situation might get even worse. So I do believe that in explaining changes, one needs to stick to principles. Why are we doing it? At the end of the day, if you stick to principles, you will be very rarely caught in contradictions.
Absolutely. In fact, there are various viewpoints that people may have pertaining to this, but I totally agree with what you mentioned. Another area which is usually and even now discussed at the G20 and the World Economic Forum is the environment sustainability. This is still a challenge. So how have you, in your leadership at the Maltese government, you've been able to still contribute in promoting eco-friendly practices and ensuring that there is sustainability, not just in in XYZ sector, but I think it's throughout the country?
I think sustainability has become a very abused buzzword at the end of the day. So when there is an obvious tension between economic progress and environmental protection, that's obvious. Nevertheless, there is an environmental progress that can be achieved through environmental protection and sustainability. I do believe that the main challenge, at least in my country, is the small size, the fact that we have a definite landmass, and at the end of the day, take the campus you're doing here, and the fact that every 6 months you're adding something to the campus. I assure you that if that was the case in countries such as Malta, like Singapore, like Hong Kong, the probability is that it would take you 6 years to do that because of the outcry that would result in landmass being taken for one reason or another rather than being left in its original state. But that being said, I think that globally speaking, the crucial part is making sure that the debate on sustainability is not reduced to simply numbers, because numbers are then very open to greenwashing, to a situation where you simply tick a box rather than having the clear and wider sense of the definition of sustainability.
Truly, I totally agree with those statements. When we look at the India-Malta relations, I'm sure there is lots that we have achieved in the last few years. So maybe if you could tell us in terms of what have been the recent agreements between India and Malta, and how do you see further developments between the two nations to ensure that we are stronger and moving forward together in ensuring that we are achieving causes, achieving the concerns that the society has?
Look, I think that first of all we need to everyone needs to realize one's own limits and context. So we're one of the smallest countries in the world, definitely standing in the same room with a economic giant such as India means that there isn't a level playing field, and we cannot aspire for that to be a level playing field. But there are ways and means in which we can cooperate, and we do cooperate. So one of the points that is probably not known is that the Maltese Medicines Authority, which is allowed by both the European Medicines Authority and the American FDA to give certifications, is the preferred EMA and FDA certifier for Indian pharmaceutical companies here in India. So many times our Medicines Authority comes here to certify Indian producers in order for them to sell both in the US and in Europe. And this is a very concrete manner in which the relations can continue to flourish, in which we can tap in a need that there is within Indian industry, while at the same time, fostering the very good relations that exist between the two sides.
True. In fact, when we look at your leadership style, people say that your leadership style is very pragmatic and forward-looking. So, if you would like to share some thoughts on how do you describe your leadership style?
I don't think it's up to me to describe. I like to think of myself as a team leader and a member of a team. One of my favorite books was a book which was a biography of Abraham Lincoln. And the title of the book was A Team of Rivals. So during the Civil War and within the context of that period, Abraham Lincoln had the opportunity to put in his team, his cabinet. And at the time, the prevailing thought was, you win the race, you kill the others, politically speaking. And he did something totally different. He said, my most bitter rivals, I will co-opt them to my side and will take the best out of them and will get all their energy to work together. It obviously has its risks, but I like to think that if one wants to contribute once the race is over, you need to co-opt as many people as possible, those who are willing to share the vision to make that vision possible.
True. So with that, we've come to the last question of this segment, which is, going to be more about higher education. So just to sum up this fireside chat, how do you see the field of higher education develop across the globe? And with reference to India, you visited India last in 2019, which is during the vibrant Gujarat summit as the Prime Minister. And this is your second visit. So I'm sure you've had some interactions with academics, in person, virtually, and you've been aware about some of the recent changes or the developments happening. So if you could tell us how, in general, higher education is being seen. Second, how as Woxsen University, the institution can play a key role with what you've seen so far.
So I believe that an institution such as Woxsen, which within this space is very young, it's 10 years young, but it has managed to establish itself forcefully. So it's one, I've learned today, of only 10 institutions in India that is accredited at European Union level. You're one of the 150 top worldwide when it comes to business administration courses. So that's a great legacy that not even universities have been around for hundreds of years, some of them can boast. But you don't have the qualms of legacy. So I believe that you can bring about a situation where you can get the best out of what is maybe traditional Indian academic system, which is very embedded into academia, very embedded into the learning the subject. It's basically the education I've been brought up in. You have to learn for your exam. You need to, until going to my PhD, basically all the courses I've attended, be it my first degree, my second degree, my master's degree, it wasn't for the fun of learning. It was to do it. You need to do it. And that's a very Anglo-Saxon mentality which was infused in us by the Brits. Now the situation has changed. And the most crucial part of higher education is, as you well know, not learning a subject, but learning how to learn. And famously, Jack Ma put it on the international agenda by saying, you know, going as far as saying schools should teach soft skills. Mm-hmm. They should stop teaching all the rest and focus on soft skills. That's within the context of the AI revolution, and that really and truly none of us in here can do. So I think Dr. Kang was saying, you know, about the debate she had in her within her institution on whether to allow Google to be used for assignments or not. You know, I come from the generation that I remember the debate whether calculators should be used in classes or not, and that we were allowed to use calculators only in physics and applied mathematics, and we needed to go and have the science and the cosines and so on from the at least we had a little blue book and go through all the tables ourselves, which was quite interesting in itself, but we used to think of it as useless. But I think it taught us a lot. It taught us the process on how the formula is being done. So within all that context, I think none of us can be able to match AI when it comes to the technical detail. So human beings need to be good at other things. And I don't know whether an institution can teach those other things, but I think an institution can prepare younger people on how to face the new challenges, which probably most of us don't even know that what they will be or when they will come.
Absolutely. In fact, we are living in exciting times, you know, right now, and higher education is very fast developing with not just the AI revolution that you're talking about, but I think in terms of the courses and how the courses are being taught with respect to, say, for example, students being told to also participate in, you know, preparing their own curriculums. So things like that, I think we are also seeing that students have started to take a lead on that. In fact, we do encourage that at Woxsen, where students are as much empowered as the faculty to come forward and ensure that their curriculums are up to date with what the industry demands. In fact, another interesting fact which I wanted to share with you, Dr. Muscat, is the faculty internship element which we have at Woxsen. So if you look at institutions globally, most of the institutions would have a student internship. What we foster here at Woxsen also is the faculty internship, where faculties would have to go, and these are usually the junior most faculties who are, you know, just joined, defended the PhD thesis, joined as assistant professors, and for them to experience what the industry looks like. I think it's important that we send them to the industry for 2 months and have them experience what are the kind of practices the you know, FMCG or an e-commerce or an IT industry is talking about. So I think these are all you know, interlinked and would always serve you know, as an important piece in helping us put the you know, the jigsaw puzzle in ensuring that we provide the best of the quality, best of the education, and totally aligned to what you just mentioned, how we are moving forward. So with that, we have come to the end of the segment 1 of the Fireside Chat. The segment 2 and the last one is a surprise element, which is a rapid fire. So a rapid fire with Dr. Joseph Muscat. The questions will be, you know, demanding a response which is going to be one word or a one sentence. So you have to be quick and tell us your response. So Audience and Dr. Muscat, are you ready?
Yes.
So my first question to you is one key learning that you've had in COVID.
Family.
Totally agree with that. How do you see India take on the lead for from the global south for the world? So one word for India.
Necessary.
Absolutely. One book of yours that you have read, not yours, but what you have read, that you would like to recommend to our viewers watching this?
Art of War.
Absolutely. In fact, I've personally been very fascinated with that. Another question would be, something a bit personal, but quite exciting to know, and that we have so many of them watching this, and we would like to know the life of Dr. Joseph Muscat. So maybe a glimpse of that. One moment from your life where you faced a testing time. At the same time, it was embarrassing, but as you came out of it, you felt that there was just nothing. This was momentary, but I think this just helped me.
This I cannot answer in one word, because it's a funny story. So when Michelle and I were having our twins, and it came at the end of a very complicated pregnancy, we had decided after reading a lot that we wanted to preserve their umbilical cord stem cells. And we bought these sets, we had demonstration on how they needed to be used, and we needed to get them at hospital and to be in the delivery room. And it was something that was planned, so it was a cesarean, and we go in for the delivery, and at one point she tells me, okay, where are the sets? And I had forgotten the sets back. At least they weren't at home, they were in the ward, so I had to go out again and come in. It was very, very embarrassing having to tell them, just wait one moment, keep the kids in, I need to go out. I need to go out.
So maybe as a follow-up question to that, how did you meet Mrs. Muscat?
Oh.
And where did you meet her?
Oh, that's
a question, maybe it's $1 million question that the world may want to know.
That's another long story, but we had two first times. So the first was at a social policy event, the second was at a political event.
That was quick and that was short. I thought there was going to be a few sentences, but thank you so much.
Not for now.
You've met Prime Minister Modi on various occasions, and the recent one being in the Vibrant Gujarat Summit in 2019, while you were serving as the Prime Minister. So how do you describe your meetings with the Prime Minister, and maybe one word or one sentence, whatever you feel is right?
One word is charismatic, for sure, definitely. I found him to be quite a good listener. There were some areas where we did not agree, but we listened to one another, and very gracefully, and we actually had a very good discussion.
Thank you very much. And my last question to you is, if you would like to switch your career for a day, what would you do? I have a flip side of the question. If you were not a politician before, what would you have done? You've had I would say, keen interest in sports. All of us know by now. You're the chairperson of the Malta Premier League. But aside of the sports, if you could tell us, what is that one thing that perhaps the world doesn't know and maybe they should know from this forum?
Well, I would love, actually it's something that I would love to have, but I cannot have. I would love to see colors, because I'm colorblind. So I don't see red and green and so on. It's a complicated. No, it's not any form of disease or anything, but it's just a condition, a genetic condition. So sometimes I would say, I would love to know exactly what some colors look like.
Awesome. And before we conclude, 3 words that you would like to give as a piece of advice to the youths that would be watching this episode going forward.
Ambition is not a bad word. Ambition is key for success and to help others.
Totally agree with that. Thank you very much, Dr. Muscat. I think that was a wonderful conversation. Really enjoyed it. And thank you for coming over to our campus. And with that, we've come to the end of the Fireside Chat. And I thank our viewers, I thank the audience for your patient listening. I'll be back very soon with another guest. Thank you.